All right, it is time. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Um, Nice, relaxing weekend, right? Hopefully. I'm sure everybody saw like that message from Inslee about shutting everything down for what? I think it's like a month. I'm pretty sure it was till like December 14th. I don't know. I don't really pay attention. My wife tells me everything that happens on the news, and I just kind of filter all of the information through her. Um, so yeah, that's kind of not fun that things are kind of shutting down and getting tight again, and they're not really wanting families to get together and things. But um, it is what it is. So I've got a handful of things more than normal that I want to share with you guys today. So we'll probably go 10, maybe 15 minutes tops, but nothing longer than that. I'm going to start off with kind of the most important or the most unusual things that we typically don't see every week. And then I'll just kind of go back into the reminders at the end. So make sure you're listening. Make sure you're awake. Make sure you're paying attention. I'm going to go ahead and let this last person that's late in here because I don't want them to miss this information. And then I will start sharing. All right. So if we go to our geometry homepage, you should see this under this week's work. So again, I've got a handful of things I want to talk to you about, and the first few things are super important and can really throw you for a loop if you're not listening. So make sure you're with me. The first thing is today starts quarter two. Quarter one is over as of Friday, so quarter two starts today. From here on out, we are halfway through the semester, and again, the semester grade is what counts. Quarter grades are just your progress report. Semester grades what counts. Some people have had a rough start. Some people have, either for whatever like legitimate justified reasons or because they just, made bad decisions. They had a rough start for quarter one. So we're going to do a couple of things, or at least it's on the plate. We're making decisions today to hopefully kind of help people out. So maybe be looking for an email from me later on today, maybe a different way of grading policies than we typically see. And I'll explain all that in the email. But literally right now, we are in the middle of our department kind of emailing suggestions and ideas and fine tuning this idea of how we want to kind of move forward and help those people specifically that had a rough start, at the beginning. Of course, if those bad decisions continue to occur and continue to be made, and assignments don't get turned in and things don't get taken, then nothing's going to help those students. But hopefully, this idea that we're having and we're working through and just making sure that it's going to be accepted by all and we can do it. Hopefully that'll happen. I'm confident that it should happen, and I'll email that out once we make that decision. Hopefully today. So with that said, you'll see one thing that I am activating right in front of you, right? So I just turned it on so you guys can see that. It's the expectations reminder. I'm sure you don't believe me, but I'm telling you the truth that I still get weekly emails. I still have Zoom conversations with students and with families about things like video tutorials, right? About things like what's due each week, late work. These things that I mention every single time we Zoom, I still have people that don't hear me or whatever the reason is. They don't know the policy. So since today starts quarter two, I just thought it might be a good idea to have an expectations reminder, which is basically like an expectations quiz. When you click on this, you can take this quiz in Canvas, and there's a little bit of direction right here. They're all true and false questions. I think there's 20 questions altogether, which sounds like a lot, but let me explain what the questions are like. I'll give you some examples. One example is, I can turn in late work. Again, for people that have been listening and that are getting irritated with me saying it every single time we Zoom, no, you cannot. So you would answer false. Here's another question that could be on that. When I start to struggle, I should just give up and not contact Mr. Chapman, right? Is that true or false? Of course it's false. Things like that. So they're pretty basic questions. But with that said, here's the key. If you're reading this, it says any student that does not get a 100% before the assessment closes will earn a 0 in Skyward. So there's no partial credit here. It's either all or nothing. I need everybody in all of my classes to understand all 20 of these questions. Not 15 of them, not 18 of them, not 19, 20. I need all 20 questions to be completely clear and everybody understand those from moving here on out. So what that means is, just like with our weekly check-in, just like with our vocab and concept assignment, you can take this as many times as you want. It's unlimited, right? Again, this is only true and false. So if you miss number 1 and you answered true, well, then you only got one other option, right? It has to be false. So, I mean, you shouldn't take this thing like 10 times. It should really be taken twice at the most. I'm pretty confident that most people will be able to do this once and be successful at it. Again, these questions are not difficult, right? You know, my assignments are due whenever I want them to be due, and I can turn them in whenever I want, right? I mean, no, that's false. So, you know, I don't think you'll have a rough time with this expectations reminder. But if you're one of those people that have a schedule, a calendar, a list of assignments, you do have one extra thing this week, this expectations reminder. You can go in here after we separate from class here in 5-10 minutes and knock it out, you know, super quick if you want to just go ahead and take care of it. Let me just make sure I said everything that I wanted to say. I'm going to pause for questions from people. So feel free to unmute yourself and let me know if you got a question about this expectations reminder.
How many questions are on it for
20.
the expectation reminder? 20? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, there's 20 questions. Each one's just worth a point. Good question. And then again, just like with the weekly check-in, just like with the vocab and concepts, there's no time limit. You could take it as many times as you want, but I'm not anticipating very many people taking it more than once. You know, 2 or 3 times should be, like I said, they're all true and false. So if you answered true and you got it wrong, it has to be false. So good question. All right. So along with that, that one assignment, again, if you're keeping a list of things you have to do each week, you've got the check-in and the vocab concepts. Now, you guys have a weird looking week, so let me kind of explain why this looks so weird. I already sent out an email on Sunday, so if you didn't read that email, make sure you go back and take a look at that. So the district sets up, like they call it a pacing guide. A scope and sequence is like the fancy word for it. And it's basically saying your students will do this work during this time, okay? For the most part, we try to stick to that pacing guide, but there's sometimes that, you know, we or I make changes, and this is one of those times. The district, in order to get everything in before Christmas break in like a month, they wanted to shove 3.1 and 3.2 in one single week. Is the material hard, you know, that difficult that you can't do it? No, but at the same time, you also have other classes, 5 other classes you're balancing in the most part. You know, people have other things in their life that they're balancing, and I just think that that's kind of dirty that they threw both of them in for 1 week. Again, I mean, could you do it? Yes. If I were to assign this, could you knock it out in 1 week? Of course. But what I'm going to do is I'm breaking this up into 2 weeks. So it's going to behave just like normal. You'll have 3.1 this week, 3.2 next week. But instead of breaking this apart, because I already created the vocab and concepts, I already created the check-in, I already created everything where it was in one assignment. So instead of going back through and making more work for myself, I'm just going to give you 2 weeks to do this section. So I hope that makes sense. You're not doing 3.1 and 3.2 this week. You're going to have 2 weeks to do 2 lessons. There is only one vocab and concept assignment. There is only one check-in. So the vocab and concept and the check-in is compiled of both lessons. You're going to see both lessons material on the vocab and concepts and on the check-in. So again, you'll have 2 weeks. Notice the due date, right? The only thing due next Sunday is this expectations refresher or reminder. If you look at the due dates for the 3.1 and 3.2 vocab and concepts and check-in, they're both November 29th, which is almost 2 weeks away, right? 2 weeks from yesterday. Now, with that said, just like I said in my email, don't just think you're going to take a week and a half off and, and knock this out the Sunday that it's due on the 29th. Set yourself up for success, right? Today marks the start of quarter two. Get on top of this stuff today. And then if you knock it out this week, then guess what? You'll have the next week off. You won't have anything extra on your plate. But don't do the opposite. Don't be a procrastinator like me. If this was me and I was being asked to do this, I would save this until November 27th, 28th, probably the 29th if we're being honest with each other. And then I do it on that day. But don't be like me, okay? Set yourself up with the schedule. Set yourself up with the plan when you're going to start looking at this material and when you're going to knock it out. Any questions on that? Again, I want to pause for a second because this is definitely different than what we see every week. Usually we get one lesson each week, but now we're getting 2 lessons over a period of 2 weeks. All right, if something does pop in your head while I'm finishing up this, what I have to talk about, please just unmute yourself and interrupt me, right? I don't ever have a problem with that. I wanna make sure your questions are getting answered. So just to recap, expectations reminder, you have to take this until you get 100%. A 95% will not get you any credit in Skyward. You have to get 100%. So take it as many times as you need to get 100%. This is due on Sunday, the 22nd. Because this week got so weird and we basically took 3.1 and 3.2 and we're gonna have this vocab and concepts and check-in, they're both gonna be due on the 29th. So essentially you still have a week per lesson, but the vocab and concepts and check-in are gonna be, are made up of both 3.1 and 3.2, and then they're both gonna be due November 29th. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about is the video. Man, your guys' video last week was kicking my butt. I don't know what was going on. I still don't know what was going on. Long story short, I use a platform to record these videos, and there was 2 problems that were happening. While I'm recording, you can't see the problem. Like while I'm recording, I just see my screen. I just see me talking and teaching and going over things. Until you get done with the video, that's when you notice the problem. So you could see how frustrating that would be to record an hour or whatever long video and then have the whole thing garbage, right? That happened to me 3 times. So 2 times because the audio would play, and then like 3 to 5 seconds later, the video would reflect what I was talking about, which, that's impossible to follow along and learn stuff that way. And then the 3rd time, the video was just blank. I recorded, went back to look at it, and the whole screen was just blank. It was gray. There was no video. It was just audio. I don't know what was going on. So I decided to use a different platform, and now everything is good. So when you go back and look at this 3.1 video tutorial, I split it up because I didn't want to record the whole video again and have the whole thing again be trash. So I did just the examples and the book work, and then part 2 is the practice problems. This is good now. I watched it. I made sure I fast forwarded through the whole thing. Now the audio and video is synced. It's good to go. So 3.2 will go up today. So be on the lookout for that if you're starting that today. But the 3.1 stuff is up and ready for you to view if you want to. A couple other things that I wanted to mention. Email from yesterday. Pretty much every week I send out at least 1 email. Sometimes I'll send out other emails, just like quick, reminders or some new piece of information. But yesterday I sent out an email that just kind of talked about a lot of information. I know it sucks opening up an email and seeing like paragraphs of words. So what I would say is at the very least, please just skim it. Right? Just scan through and make sure, oh, here he's just talking about late work again. Gosh, Chapman, you just won't shut up about that. So just skip past that, right? If you understand that there's no late work. Skip past the part that's talking about if you need help, email me if you know that. But just make sure you're reading through and you're kind of looking through to see if there's any new information that's really important that you need to be on top of. Okay, make sure you're checking your email. Another thing is in Skyward, that's where all your grades are at. Just ignore the grades in Canvas because Skyward might have different grades in it. Skyward is your grading platform. When I process grades on Monday, please make sure you're going in there and making sure the points that you earned is the points that are in Skyward. I've had more than one instance where for some reason the points didn't transfer from Canvas to Skyward, and somebody emailed me and I went in to verify and it was good to go, so I manually changed it. Don't just assume that these systems, or that right, because I make mistakes all the time, don't assume that I'm doing everything perfectly. Make sure you're checking up on me and that, hey, I did turn in this assignment. Can you double check that and make sure, I'm happy to do that. And the last thing I want to say, and then I'll open it up for questions and then dismissal, is if you are failing as of last Friday, if you have an F in Skyward, in my class or in any class, you need to contact me or that teacher today, soon. I'm not sure what's going on, but I think the main reason why people are just so content with failing is because you're not accountable to anybody, in person. You're not coming to class and I'm seeing you sitting at the desk doing nothing and where I can confront you and talk with you. It's really easy to not have that person in front of you that you're accountable to, and you're accountable to your grades, for your grades. If you have one or more classes, I can tell you personally that I would be happy to meet with the student and figure out what's going on and to develop a plan to move forward to fix that issue, right? It could be something as simple as, hey, Chapman, your videos suck and I couldn't follow along because the audio was off from the video. Well, problem fixed, right? It could be as simple as something as like, I didn't know you made videos, right? I didn't know I could access those types of things. So there's things that we can do, and we can make sure that we're on the same page to make sure you're successful for semester one, okay? Other than that, that's really all I have to share. I'm going to kind of make sure I'm going to let these people that are late in pause for questions. All right. If you are good to go get started on math. If you have questions or want to hang back and talk, please do so. We'll see you Wednesday. Hey, Gabe.